In this video we're going to create some simple percussion sounds with the Nordrum 3P. So we'll make some block sounds, metallic and wooden, some mallet sounds, a conga sound, some timpani sound, like some shaker sound. There's really a lot of stuff we can explore, and also that is easy to create, as you will see. It's always just about turning a few knobs. And at the same time you will learn how you can use the waveforms inside the Nordrum 3P just in a more conscious way. And since the video is going to be really practical, let's jump right into it. First of all, hi and welcome to this video. My name is Yannis, in case you're new here, and we're going to start with some wooden block sounds because they are really easy to make. So they sound like this. And there are three types of waveforms that are particularly great for that. For example, the T1 is the most simple one. It doesn't even come with a filter, but it just simply gives you this warm wooden sound. The T2 setting gives you a little bit more of the high frequency content. And you can also add some intervals, so you can make the whole sound more resonant. And also with some other intervals. And also you got a filter, so you can, for example, bring the left value down and add the dynamic filter and make it kind of punchy and use this brilliance that you get from the spectra in order to give it some more direct and brilliant attack. The T algorithms have some good amount of click though, so if you want to have it a little bit duller, you can check out the H1. And here's some kit that only consists of H1 sounds. And you only have different values of the spectra. So here you can see 26, 40, nothing, 64, 74 or 88. And the filter is pretty much always the same. So I use a lot of the dynamic filter to get this kind of brilliant attack still, but then it goes down almost to the bottom. And for the decay, I always just have some simple short type exponential decay for all those sounds I've shown you so far. And I also like to support those sounds with a tiny bit of the click. So here I use the P mode, which stands for punch, I think. It just makes the sound a little thicker, and I usually use a little bit of the click for almost any sound, but there's no noise, so you can basically build the sound with just the three parameters here and the click. If you want some more metallic sounds, I recommend playing with the P algorithms, so you get those types of sounds. And as you can see here, we have like P4, P3, P2, and P1. And here you always have to check for the sound, because basically you can use any position. And it's always resonant, so somehow they sound out of tune, but if you think of any surface you can drum on, there's always going to be some sort of resonance. And depending also on the decay, you can control it. So if you have a short decay, it's a percussive sound, but the longer you let the tone ring, the more chance it interferes with some other melodic sounds you might use in your music. And here you might need the filter setting a lot, because if you open the filter all the way, it might sound too brilliant. So often you can see here that my dynamic filter is also not all the way open. So here it's at 6 or even at 2, and using a bit more of the natural ring, because sometimes if you emphasize this brilliant attack through a short decay in the beginning, it just sounds too harsh. So always be aware of adjusting or taming the kind of harsh frequencies with your filter settings. And you can also easily turn those P sounds into some mallet sounds, sounding like some vibraphone, for example, or marimba phone. So here you can see I have the P4 setting on 63, and this time there's the same sound on every pad, and I can play those little melodies that just remind you of those mallet type sounds. And here you have another good example for some filter setting that tames down the harsh frequencies. So the basic frequency is down all the way to the bottom, and the dynamic filter is also down to 5, which is quite a way already, because it's enough for giving the brilliance in the attack, but otherwise it would sound too harsh. And some even better example for understanding how you can tame the frequencies with the filter is when you're using the FM sounds, so F1 to 4, and actually 1 and 4 I think are the best for also having those marimba vibraphone type sounds. So here it sounds like this, which is a sound I like a lot. But if I would edit all channels and open the filter completely just for the attack, it's just way too much. All sounds we've made so far were super simple because we were only using the spectra, frequency, decay, and a little bit of the click. But let's check the noise now, because now I muted all of the tone and only the noise is active. And with only the noise you can make some super fun shaker sounds like this. And it's really important here to use this decay mode that is dynamic. So this means the left value is higher than the right value, which means if I play with a high velocity, the decay is longer. If I play with a soft velocity, it's shorter. And for shakers, this gives us lots of possibilities for some more expressive way of playing. A shaker is really about the high frequency, so what usually works well is to use some high pass filter, and the filter is also opened all the way and no dynamic filter, almost all the way, and no dynamic filter is being used, giving us this kind of smooth sound, because if you don't use resonance, it tends to sound a bit harsh, but a little bit of it can smoothen the sound. And we also support the sound with the click, because here it's at some higher value. If I take it off, you see it doesn't have as much impact. Although like this, it also can be nice if you just don't want the attack, so you want a very, very soft shaker. But I also like the kind of more aggressive transient that comes when you would give the shaker some accent, and I really like it here. Next, let's check out some conga type sound. For any type of drum sound, the D section is the best one, because it imitates some drum skin behavior and you can create those types of resonances, no matter if for a conga, or you'll see in a second also for some timpani sound or some timbales. And in this case, I have the D1 setting, and the left side you can almost see as some tuning screw that you can turn on a real drum, because you get all sorts of different resonances. And you still have to listen carefully that they are in tune with whatever you're playing with, because if you're playing solo, you don't have to worry about it, but otherwise some of those resonances can be really nasty, so just keep this in mind. And you can also see that the frequency really emphasizes the first attack, otherwise there would be way more resonances, which also can sound really cool, but again, depending on where you use it. And the decay is a little dynamic again. And for drum sounds, I really recommend playing with the pitch envelope, because it can increase the attack. Here it's super mild, but if I would exaggerate, you see that we get some really attacky sound, but it's too much. But on a mild setting, you can imitate the kind of, if you would hit a conga with your hand, there's always a kind of slap. And that's what you can create with the pitch envelope. Now, for drum sounds, I recommend using the noise generator as well. So both actually, because the click is also a noise generator. I have a little bit of it here, but also 22 amount for the noise, which is just a tiny bit of support also for this kind of initial transient. Because there is noise if you hit a drum, and otherwise it just doesn't sound realistic. And with those following examples for timbales and timpani, you will see it even more strongly. And just for the setting, it's a low pass filter, a little bit of resonance, also a little bit of the dynamic filter, and a decay like this should be the same. No, it's not the same, it's even shorter. So we just get this tiny additional support in the beginning of a hit. Another super fun sound to create is some timbales sound like this. And here the noise is more present, and I want to start with it, so I'm going to mute the tone. And let's just listen to the noise. Here it sounds like the noise, but it also has this snappy character in the beginning, almost sounding like some rim, giving this aggression to the sound. And again, it's the low pass filter, which I mostly use for drum type, noise and resonances. With the setting like this, so a little bit of the dynamic filter, because this is a setting or some range where I always stay, and you'll also see it with the timpani sound in a second, where the noise sounds really natural, because if I increase the dynamic filter, again it gets too much of the type sound. I don't know how to describe this. And otherwise I can also open the filter, but this would make only sense if you're trying to create a snare drum sound. Actually for this it could be a cool kind of technique, but otherwise this range seems to be the magical one for getting the realistic drum type resonances. And the decay looks somewhat like this, just a little bit reaction to the playing. And here I'm also using a D algorithm with the value 46. The frequency is completely open, so the right value is completely irrelevant, could also be at 0. So we get all those resonances because this makes the sound so wild and open here. And the decay looks like this. Also a fun thing to try is the P mode because it gives some additional little punch to your sound. And with many sounds, it just sounds over the top. But timbales have this super wild, dancey vibe. So here it actually works. So sometimes if you want to go wild, check the P decay. And we're also using a little bit of the pitch envelope, this time with a longer time, to make it sound a little more obvious. And I also want to show you this timpani sound, because it sounds completely different to the timbales sound, but the noise, in fact, is almost the same. So actually, I'm not going to separate it now, but you can see it's again a low-pass filter. And with the last sound, we had dynamic filter at 4 and 17. Here it's a bit lower, so it sounds a little darker, but kind of in the same area. It's very small differences. And the decay is also longer because the whole sound is longer. But just for the interplay between the filter and the resonance. So this seems to be a good mount for any type of drum noise. And the tone is D7 with this value. This time I don't use the dynamic filter because this is a more sluggish sound. It comes slower. There's not this super aggressive attack. It's more like something that builds up. So it's nice to use all the resonances and not really the initial punch. And the decay looks like this. A bit of the pitch envelope, but also not really obvious because the sound is really about this kind of dark atmosphere. And also a little bit of the click. And there you have your timpani sound. And for none of these sounds I was using some reverb, delay, distortion or EQ. I really focused on the section, and that's what I recommend to you as well. That you really listen to the tone instead of immediately trying to compensate stuff with the fun section here, which is fun, but not always helping. Now, all the sounds I was showing you in this video are part of some percussion library that I just created for the Nordrum 3P. And I mean, you know some of them by now, but the library contains 50 different kits with all different types of percussion sounds that are also versatile, so you can easily adapt them to whatever musical situation you're in. And you can preview all the sounds and find more about it here, and also find a little discount code down below in the description. Otherwise, here's some more content about the Nordrum 3P, giving you some additional inspiration on how to use this instrument. And apart from that, I wish you lots of inspiration with whatever it is that you create, and hope to see you soon again at this channel. Bye!